Hello, welcome back from the Independence Day celebrations. Eunice here in my space, welcoming you. Especially today, I welcome the business people, those who are doing business, those who are planning to do business. I have something that I want us to have a conversation about. Today, I'm talking about those that stop our wells. The silence was for emphasis so that we can all take it in. You see, your business is like a well that you dig. And the thing about wells is that they should be for generations. When you come and dig a well, more people after you should be able to find that well and draw water out of it. You remember the story of the Samaritan woman? When Jesus found this woman at the well, the woman told Jesus that, "Do you want to tell me that you can give me water that is better than what our forefathers did?" And then she went ahead to tell Jesus that this well was dug by our forefathers. It is because when you dig a well, the idea is that the well should be for posterity. So those of us who are in business, what we are doing, although it starts like a flicker of light, although it starts like a very small thing, the idea is, and I actually hope that that is your idea, the idea is that we are digging a well that is going to last generations so that our children, just like that Samaritan woman, can sit at that well many years later and they can draw water out of it. Just like, say, the KFC gentleman that started KFC many years ago, and now his children and great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren are still eating from that well. They are still drawing water out of that well. That is the way it should be for Eunice's Kitchen that I'm building. And that is the way that it should be for Toddler's Gold, where I'm coming live to you today. That is what we expect every business to be. But unfortunately, sometimes as we dig our wells, we have people that come and they stop the well. Now, to stop is not just to stop the flow of water where they cut it off, but to stop is they come and they put ash, they put back dirt, they put back soil into the well, and so the well is not able to flow, and therefore our children are not going to find the well. Now, if you are doing business, you need to watch out for people that stop wells, because some of you are running business and either your spouse is stopping the well, or your mother is stopping the well, or your cousin is stopping the well, and unfortunately even the church sometimes stops the well of business. Today I want us to go into Genesis chapter 26 verse 12 to 33, and I want us to read some verses there, and then we will delve into the conversation. It is the story about Isaac. Verse 12 says, "Then Isaac sowed in that land and reaped in the same year 100-fold, and the Lord blessed him. The man began to prosper and continued prospering until he became very prosperous. For he had possessions of flocks and possessions of herds and a great number of servants, so the Philistines envied him. Now the Philistines had stopped up all the wells which his father's servants had dug in the days of Abraham his father, and they filled them with earth. And Abimelech said to Isaac, 'Go away from us, for you are much mightier than we.' Then Isaac departed from there and pitched his tent in the valley of Gerar and dwelt there. And Isaac dug again the wells of water which they had dug in the days of Abraham his father, for the Philistines had stopped them up after the death of Abraham. He called them by the names which his father had called them. Also Isaac's servants dug in the valley and found a well of running water there. But the herdsmen of Gerar quarreled with Isaac's herdsmen, saying, 'The water is ours.' So he called the name of the well Esek, because they quarreled with him. Then they dug another well, and they quarreled over that one also. So he called its name Sitnah. And he moved from there and dug another well, and they did not quarrel over it. So he called its name Rehoboth, because he said, 'For now the Lord has made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land.' Then he went up from there to Beersheba, and the Lord appeared to him the same night and said, 'I'm the Lord, the God of your father Abraham. Do not fear, for I am with you. I will bless you and multiply your descendants for my servant Abraham's sake.' So he built an altar there and called on the name of the Lord, and he pitched his tent there, and there Isaac's servants dug a well. Then Abimelech came to him from Gerar with Ahuzath, one of his friends, and Pishol, the commander of the army. And Isaac said to them, why have you come to me, since you hate me and have sent me away from you? But they said, we have certainly seen that the Lord is with you. So we said, let there now be an oath between us, between you and us, and let us make a covenant with you, that you will do us no harm, since we have not touched you, and since we have done nothing to you but good, and have sent you away in peace. You are now the blessed of the Lord. So he made them a feast, and they ate and drank. Then they arose early in the morning and swore an oath to one another, and Isaac sent them away, and they departed from him in peace. It came to pass the same day that Isaac's servants came and told him about the well which they had dug, and said to him, we have found water. So he called it Sheba. Therefore the name of the city is Beersheba to this day. So my business friend, I don't know what kind of wells you have dug, but I want us to take it from top. I told you at the beginning of this teaching that our businesses are wells, and when we dig them, we want them to last generations. When you dig a well, you expect that fresh water is going to come out of it. So when you dig the well called your business, you expect that the water that flows out of it is a profit. Okay? But sometimes you're not making a profit, because they are Philistines, or they are people who are envious of you, or they are people who are full of certain evil spirits that come and stop up the well. Now, the Bible says in verse 12 that Isaac sowed in the land, and in that same year, he reaped 100-fold, and the Lord blessed him. Just like you established your business, and maybe in that same season you started to see returns, and therefore you started to speak about it, you started to post about it, and so all your relatives, all your friends, and all your enemies saw that you have sowed and you are reaping. The Bible says in verse 13 that Isaac began to prosper and continued prospering until he became very prosperous. Okay? When you build a business, that is the progression through which it should go. You should begin to prosper, meaning you should make a profit, and then you should continue to prosper, meaning you should make a bigger profit, and then you should become very prosperous. I want you to stop a bit there and ask yourself, if I made a profit in January, what profit did I make 3 months later? And what profit did I make 6 months later? Because some of you, there are actually people that are stopping the walls, but because you are prosperous, meaning you are getting a little profit, you're not noticing it. You have ended at prosperous. And so even as I start this teaching, you're thinking, no, me, I'm good. And I'm going to talk about the different people that stop the wells. And if you get this point, when we get to the other point, you'll be able to understand it. So I want you to think about the fact that when you start a business, you should prosper. But you are not supposed to just prosper. You're supposed to continue to be prosperous. And you're not supposed to just continue to be prosperous. You're supposed to become exceedingly prosperous. That is the way of the Lord, and that is what should happen to you. So right there, I want you to start thinking about your business and start to ask yourself, I started to prosper, but am I being prosperous? Am I continuing to prosper? And am I becoming very prosperous? Just stick up in there and think about it. So Isaac had many things, but in verse 15, the Bible says the Philistines had stopped up all the wells which his father's servants had dug in the days of Abraham, his father, and they had filled them with earth. Most of us who start businesses and we have people stop the wells, most likely relatives, need to look in our parents' lineages and start to think about the things that happened to our fathers. If, for example, you had a father, he didn't have a business, but he was an income earner, a person who used to go to office and come back and used to earn a living, but they were like the only person in the clan that was making a lot of money. And so everybody used to come to the home and everybody used to lodge there. So your father paid fees for your cousin, for your cousin's cousin, for the sister, for the sister's children, for the sister's children's children. In most cases, that shows you that there is a Philistine spirit there. Because you see, like my father used to tell me, it is not good if you go to the village, for example, for a burial, and the only car that is parked in the compound is yours, so that all your cousins are standing right at the car waiting for you to get into the car because everybody needs a lift to Kampala. It is also not good for you if, for example, you have a house and the only way people describe that house in your village is when you get to the other big house. Meaning all the houses within the location are actually not big or not as beautiful, so that the yardstick to explain your location is the way your house is and the size of the house. In most cases, usually there is a Philistine spirit that is surrounding you, because God has not ordained that only one person in the clan becomes prosperous. God has not ordained that only one among the siblings become prosperous. And so usually when you see that you're the only one who is prospering and becoming very prosperous, you're the one buying herds, you're the one who has this house, you're the one who has this car, you need to be extremely careful, because in such situations the Philistine spirit is usually near. Okay, so if that happened in your life, as many of us it happened to us, you need to stick up in there, and then you need to think about it, because in most cases when your father now lets go, when your father either dies or he's tired or he has retired, in most cases they are going to hand over this thing to you. They are going to hand over these obligations to you. Because think about it, if when you come together as a family, everybody has packed the best car, everybody has everything, who is going to go and inconvenience the other in their business? Actually, when you meet, you are going to be thinking about how to make each other more prosperous. But the problem with Isaac here is he was in a land where he's the one who got possessions of flocks, possessions of herds, a great number of servants. And the Bible says, therefore the Philistines envied him. So sometimes the people who come to stop your well, they look well-meaning that they envy you. But this spirit of envy in verse 14 is just a representation of the many other spirits that can be around you when you are the only one prospering and becoming very prosperous until you are exceedingly prosperous. So what do you do before we even go ahead to dissect this? It is very important for you to continually pray for your sisters, to continually pray for your brothers, to pray for your children, that all of you together will be prosperous, so that an evil spirit does not invade. Because in a situation where you are the only one that is digging wells, you're the only one that is amassing wealth, you are going to get into problems. I mean, I saw this happen where when a relative now does not have, everybody moves on to their next destination. The Bible says in verse 15 that the Philistines had stopped up all the wells which his father's servants had dug in the days of Abraham his father, and they had filled them with earth. So like I said, usually this spirit comes from the past. Most cases it comes from the past. It comes from the past where either your mother went to school or your father went to school, or you're the only one who went to school, and then everybody else. In most cases when that is happening, this spirit is very nearby. The Bible says in verse 16 that Abimelech said to Isaac, "Go away from us, for you are mightier than we." In most cases, these people who come to step your well or to stop your well, usually they do not like you, but because they want something from you, like we are going to see later, Abimelech went to Isaac. You had the verse when I read it as we came to verse 33. They usually come and they say, "Oh, we like you," whatever. But those are the kinds of people who, the moment you pass on, they are going to become a problem for your children. They are going to become a problem for your wife. They are going to become a problem for your husband. They are going to become a problem for your mother, for your father, because usually people do not like that you are mightier than them. And that is why I said that it is important that all of us together prosper. Now verse 17 says, Isaac departed from there and pitched his tent in the valley of Gerar and dwelt there. Usually you need to set yourself apart first. You need to move away from the place where you're surrounded by the poverty spirit and first set camp in a different place. And what do I mean? You can actually be among them, but be separate. When they are engaging in gossip, do not, because when you do that, you're opening up the door to be attacked. When they engage in maligning other people, do not open up that mouth, because then you are opening up yourself to be maligned. When they complain about another relative whom they are saying is not as good, do not be among them. Be ye separate. So get out from among them and be separate in the way that you act and in the way that you do things. But this also means that you might want to open up wells in places that they do not know anything anything about. You need to start to think about opening businesses that you do not have to tell everyone about, because sometimes when you go telling everyone about it, they want to stop the wells. The Bible says in verse 18, Isaac dug again the wells of water which they had dug in the days of Abraham his father, for the Philistines had stopped them up after the death of Abraham. He called the names which his father called them. Usually when you dig a well, you give it a name. Your business has a name. So when you go to dig the old wells that probably your forefathers dug, or when you go to dig the wells that you are digging in your generation, you need to give those wells names. Verse 19 says, also Isaac's servants dug in the valley and found a well of running water, but the herdsmen of Gerar quarreled with Isaac's herdsmen, saying, the water is ours. So he called that well Esek, because they quarreled with him. Then they dug another well and they quarreled over that one also, and he called it Sitna. And so he moved from there and dug another well, and they did not quarrel over it. Why? Because he moved from there. That is why I'm saying that you need to think about opening up a business, especially when there is a chronic problem where people are always stopping your wells. And right now let me talk about the people who stop wells. There are those of you who have business and you have these types of Philistines that always come in the business. Some of them, it is your spouse. Every time they see that the business is prospering, soko lete sente ezo tuzikolemu wano nja kuzikuddiza. You know, translated, first bring that money and we do this little thing and then we are going to put it back. You gave them the money the first time, they didn't bring it back. You gave them the money the second time, they didn't bring it back. You gave them the money the third time, they did not bring it back. While the two become one, you need a well that your children are going to be able to find. So if you are working with a spouse who is not getting that, it is important for you both and for your children that there is a well. You need then to very, very wisely see how you can dig a well, and for a season as you are in prayer. Please notice I said for a season as you are in prayer. First, don't tell that spouse about that well, because both of you are going to suffer when finally there is no well. I know women who say, I started this, he ate the money. I started the other, he ate the money. I started the third thing, he ate the money. Now all of us are in poverty and even the marriage is under distress. And you see, some of our leaders are going to tell you, no, you need to work together. But until this person gets the deliverance and the Philistine spirit is away, or until this well is now a bubbling brook, it is important that maybe you first keep this well away from them, so that by the time you tell them about this well and you bring them back into this thing, it is too big for them to eat it. Because there are people who eat land, they eat a whole acre of land, they eat houses, they eat businesses. They are like a locust, okay? And yet we are talking about posterity and we are talking about a generation. So some of them, it is your spouse, they are always borrowing money out of the business and you do not have the heart to stop them. You need to be very careful, because these are people that are stopping the well and you are not going to help your generations after you. Some of them, it is people who take stock and they do not pay. They can even be your spouse, but some of these are friends. They take stock and they do not pay. Leta yawo, mpola yawo, leta tujja kuwencha, those kinds of people. Nkolera kantu kano nja kusasula, and they never pay, and they didn't pay in January, they didn't pay in February, even in March you gave them, even in April you gave them, and you think that your problem is binding demons. The devil has nothing to do with it. It is the people that are stopping the wells, and if you do not have the guts to stand up to them and tell them to stop, then the best thing that you've got to do is to stop showing them where the wells are. You see, in our generation, because all of us want people to know that we are doing something great for ourselves, even when the business is in its infancy, it's 1 day old, you want to show us all, you want to go on Instagram and show everyone. But there are businesses on this world where none of us knows who the owner is. Like, you've got to go and dig up and see who the shareholders are. And interestingly, those are the multi-billion-dollar businesses. And this is something that I have also learned myself. And these days I tell friends that the next business that I build, or there is probably even a business that I have already built that nobody knows anything about. Even my relatives do not know that I own that business. Yes, I am blessed with a spouse who is not a locust. Christ, who is not a Philistine. So for him, he will get to know about the business. But there are businesses that I'm building that no one gets to know that my name is on that business. Because the moment certain people get to know, the spirit of envy, the spirit of jealousy, they'll go and talk about you, because this is also another type of way that people stop the wells. Because they know that this business belongs to Eunice and they are your cousin and they hate you. Every time that name comes up in a space where they are discussing getting services from that business, they tell everybody, that one is my cousin, I know her very much, don't go and buy from there. They are stopping the well. So sometimes the best way is for them to keep buying and eating, and they do not know who the owner is. I mean, who knows who the owner of Shell or Vivo Energy is? Who really knows the owner of Total or Total Energy is? You just go in there, you get the fuel, and so you do not have any bad, that spirit, that spirit of Sanballat and Tobiah, the one we call Akasaja Kumutima. When you are putting the money there, you're not feeling like I've given them their money, my money, I'm supporting them, because you do not know who dug the well. So my business friend, I want to tell you that there are certain things that you need to be very careful about, because there are Philistines around us. And while it is important for us to share our life out here and make people know for purposes of being encouraged, we need to know that there are certain wells that we need to build, and those wells need to be in oblivion. So there are those who take stock and they do not pay. There are those who say, bring the money, we use it, we will put it later, and they do not bring it later. Then there are those who want discounts even when they can pay, even when they can afford, and they want the discount on the discount, which was on top of the discount. So you see, you bought this item at 10,000 shillings, you're selling it at 15,000. Your very able-bodied relative comes, they can pay the 15,000, but they say, Njagala discount. You turn it to 12,000. They say, no, I want it at 11,000. And because you fear them, or you fear what the family is going to say, or whatever, you take it at even 9,000, and therefore you make a loss. That relative of yours has never gone to a Shell petrol station and said, Basaleka mafuta. They have never gone to say, when the children or when the workers tell him that the price is 15,000, they never throw their weight around and tell the pump attendant, Njagala kulaba owner, Njagala kulaba manager. They never do that, because there is certain information that is shielded from them. So there is those people who stop wells like that. And then there is those who want debt on end. They are always taking on credit. Some of them are your husband. Some of them are your husband's relatives. Every time you start a business, your husband is taking things to give to his sisters, and the sisters do not pay. And the reason that you fear is, oh my God, these are my in-laws. What am I going to tell them? The well is being stopped, and your children are going to find nothing. Your children are going to find nothing. While you are one with your husband, you're not one with your sisters-in-law. You're not one with your brothers-in-law. So if your husband has not left, because there are some men or there are some women, they did not live and cleave. So they have not left, so they cannot stand up to their relatives to talk to their relatives. Then it means that for you, it is between you and your husband. You need to learn to wisely dig wells as you pray into the spirit, because I am exposing this spirit also, so that you pray into it, because yes, people can change, but while you wait for the change to happen, we are all not going to go down under. We want, by the time the change happens, let this person find us up here, because we do not have tomorrow and the next day and the other day to build the wells. Then there are those who want a lot for little. Okay, it's like going on a tomato stall, and this lady shows you tomatoes and says these tomatoes are 5,000 shillings, and then you say, no, me, I want to pay 2,000 shillings. The bargainers, the people who come and they want you to give you too much for little. There are people who come into his kitchen, and I feel that the plate of food is fairly priced. And they come and they find that a plate of food, because we have a plate of food of just one meat item at 20,000 shillings for outside catering, and then we have for 2 meat items at 25, and then we have for 3 meat items at 30,000. And for me, I feel that's relatively priced. It's a good price. But then there are people who still come and say, no, on top of those 6 food items, me, I want you to add another 3 at no cost. You don't get a call. This is little. You add more. I am your mother. I am your father. There is someone who recently told me, me, I'm a pensioner, so I get little, and because they are a pensioner and they are a mother to to someone that I know, and I'm thinking, you want to stop my well? I have already given you a reasonably priced plate of food. I am not going to go down under, because I also knew that this person is able to pay for the food. But then they come as a Philistine and they want to stop the well. You have to be careful with such people. And then there are people There are people who come and, you know, they try to talk you down. They stop the well by talking you down. They come. I remember one time I actually got into a very bad outburst with someone close, someone who is like a spiritual leader over me, because they would always come into my business and then they are saying things like, you know, but at the other restaurant, but at the other restaurant. And you see, the things that they were comparing were not the same. I'm Eunice's Kitchen. For me, I'm selling pork. The other restaurant does not sell pork. And me, I'm selling the pork like this. But if you could do like the other restaurant, if you know, something which is not bad, but they worried me. They reached a point and they worried me because I reached a point where I was starting to change things in my business to suit their taste, not even my taste or even the taste of the other customers, until one day I had it and I realized that this person had a Philistine spirit on them and they were stopping my well. So I told them, I said, you know, it is an easy thing. The day you wake up and you want to eat at Eunice's Kitchen, please come at Eunice's Kitchen. The day you wake up and you want to go to the other restaurant, please go to the other restaurant. But you're stopping my well. It was not a very easy conversation to have, but I had to have that conversation. I know business people where they are bankrupt now because all your stock is among relatives. If you give someone things the first time and they don't pay, and the second time and they don't pay, why do you give them things the third time? And then you cry about it. If you cannot stand up to them and talk to them, if you cannot stand up to them and make them stop, then you need to do it the Isaac way. If you move from where Abimelech is and you go to Gerar and you build, you dig a well, and then in Gerar they still complain, move on. And this time when you move on, go to a place where nobody knows about you, start the well, and when you start this well, do not tell anybody that this is my well. But like I said, if this is your husband who is the Philistine, then stop praying prayers of God. Oh, I change him, make him see. This is a Philistine spirit you are dealing with, and therefore you need to bind the evil man that is working, that is at work in your husband. You know, there are people who, you know, the Bible says when it's talking about the principalities, the powers of darkness of this dark world, there are some people, I like the Luganda version that says emyoyo emibi egifugira waggulu egifugira mu kizikiza. There are some people nga balimu emyoyo emibi egivugira mu kizikiza, and you're married to them naye nga omwoyo omubi gumuliko. You need to know how to pray about this, but these are the people that stop wells. Now, the Bible says that that Isaac went and dug a well that he called Rehoboth, because he said, the Lord has made room for us and we shall be fruitful in the land. And then he also went there and went to Beersheba, and he also built a well. And imagine, the Bible says in 23 that verse 24 that after he had done this, this is when the Lord appeared to him that same night and told him that I will bless you and multiply your descendants for my servant Abraham's sake. The Lord didn't talk to him when there was disorganization and when there were Philistines stopping up the wells. For as long as he was in a place where he was allowing, because by the way, I want you to first stick up in here, my business friend. You are the problem. You're the one who has allowed these people to stop up your well, because you have refused to take drastic decisions. So you are the one harboring the place of disorganization, and for as long as you're harboring that place of disorganization, the Lord cannot speak to you, the Lord cannot increase you. So it is when Isaac finally went and he built in a place, and then he went further, and he went, because by going away he was saying that my provision does not depend on you. My increase does not depend on the wells which my father dug. My increase depends on the Lord. He decided that even if my relatives don't buy from me, because sometimes you're like, you know, if you tell the people, then they get to know. Tell your friends about your business so that they know, so that they support you. You need to get to Allen. And by the way, even in Eunice's Kitchen, our increase came the day I decided that this business is not for my friends or my church members or my relatives, and I said, let me start to build a business for the people around me. When my relatives come, that is beautiful. When my church people come, that is excellent. But I don't sit there saying, can you imagine Watoto church people do not buy from me? I did not establish this people for this business for Watoto church people. So even when Watoto church won't call me to say, oh, come and talk about your business on this platform, I do not really get a knot in my throat, because I depend totally on God. Watoto Church finds me in my total trust to God. My auntie finds me in my total trust to God. My neighbor finds me in my total trust to God. So even if my own cousin or relative or whatever will not share my post, that is none of my business, because for me, I opened this business for the people around me, who include my cousin, my sister, my brother, my relative. They are inclusive of the people. So when God realized that Isaac had moved to a place of complete trust, then the Lord talked to Isaac and blessed Isaac. And so what did Isaac do? In return, he built an altar and he called on the name of the Lord. Meaning, for as far as your well is being stopped, you don't even know how to pray. You don't even know how to deal with business in prayer, because your mind is clouded with the anger and the pain and the things that you're going through because of the people that are stopping your well. In fact, you are living in a place where you are angry and you just do not want anything to do with these people, because you are living in a place where your well is being stopped. But then Isaac was able to build, was able to build a relationship with God because he built an altar. And then, interestingly, verse 26, Abimelech came back with his friend, and then he told Isaac that now we have seen that the Lord is with you, so let's sign an oath. Let's make an oath. Now, the Bible doesn't tell you that Isaac actually signed an oath. The Bible tells you he just made food and he gave them. Now, some of the people that stop your wells are the people that you have brought into your business as partners. Okay? Be very careful with making business decisions where you bring a partner because, oh, this is my sister, she doesn't have what to do, but she has time on her. So because even you're being selfish, you are bringing this person so that leader could do. You bring them, and then when you become very big, you are going to quarrel with that person. And in most cases, when those people leave, they live in a very bad way. They stop wells. So I want you to go back and think about your partnerships. All that thing that you are about to make a decision about and get into a partnership, it may as well become the snare. It may ensnare you, and it may become the thing that stops the well. So Isaac did not fall for the trap. He welcomed them and he said, yes, I'm at peace with you, but I am not going to build to establish a covenant with you. When now your husband finally comes and sees that the empire is very big and everything, and then he says, I think now we need to bring my sister here. My sister studied this. Let's do this. Be very careful about such things. Be very, very careful about such things. Unless you see that the person has totally changed and you have seen a track record, be very careful. Because like I said, this is going to end up helping your husband in the future, and this is going to help your children for posterity. So Isaac fed them, he made a feast, they drank, rose up very early in the morning, and they swore an oath to one another, but it was an oath of go in peace. It was not an oath of come, let's work together. So that is what I meant by he did not sign an oath with them. He didn't sign an oath of, hey, come and build near here. Tukolagane, he signed an oath of mobereyo, nange kambereyo. That is the oath that he signed. And the Bible says it came to pass that same day, because Isaac had not fallen for this, the servants found another well. Because the Lord now started to even make him more prosperous, because he was in the will of God. My business friend, how many wells have you dug so far? And how many times have they been stopped? I know stories where a person has started business after business, and relatives, friends, loved ones, office mates, office mates that you take cookies to every Monday, and they owe you and they have not paid, yet they have the guts to start to ask for another pack. Office mates, you take 2 handbags because you paid 2 handbags, and they take, and even tomorrow they are going to ask for another one, and you just complain in your home, in your bed. Those are well stoppers. And I have exposed to you that usually they have a demonic spirit that is at work in them, and that demonic spirit is not set to destroy only you, it is set to destroy the entire generation. Because when we start businesses so that they are wells that our children will find and they will tell their children about. And that is the biggest problem in Africa. In Africa, we rarely find generational businesses because most of our relatives, most of our clansmen, most of our fellow workers, most of our churches are well stoppers. I actually didn't say something about church, but let me say it in closing. Sometimes when the leaders of the church see that your business is prospering, they put you on every committee. Yes, I know I'm shaking some tables, and I know that maybe a few people will misunderstand me, but they put you on every committee, and every committee means you are going to make a contribution. And you're making a contribution towards building, you're making a contribution towards these orphans, you're making a contribution towards the other mothers, you're making a contribution towards the pastor's homecoming, you are the one who is painting the church, you are the one. And one day you are going to wake up and the well has stopped because the pastor also was not prudent enough to tell you that, okay, I've put you on this building committee, but before you bring the contribution, is it part of your profit? And have you got enough to put back into the business? Because think about it, for some of us who have grown up in the traditional churches, most of these men who are even given a chair where they put their name on the chair, when they die and then their families, the well has stopped, the church forgets them and goes on to the next parishioner who has the money. Because bagala alina, you get what I mean? Bagala alina ugwe bagala, gwe batitibya, gwe bawanika. Naye Bugembe sanga song and said, abantu bensi eno tebakulimbanga, bakuwanika waggulu bwe bamala ne bajjayo eddala. So the dala bagenda kulijjayo when your child is barely starting university and they do not have university fees, and the well that should have paid that fees was stopped because you are the one in every fundraiser. I am a giver and I encourage giving, and in my church I get on too many different things, committees and whatever, but I go in there aware that there are certain people within the church who don't understand the building of a well. I know churches where the leader can actually write to you an email and say, we are looking for 100 million shillings and I have identified you, you must bring 1 million here. And some of them call it honor. And they cannot listen to reason. Then you need to know that this is a well stopper. Think about all the people who are contributing earlier in your church and their businesses run down. Are they praying for them? Are they still seated at the front? Ladies and gentlemen, let us beware of those that stop wells. You can write to me. My email is going to run on the screen. I have a business mentorship class starting in January. I have filled up 5 spaces and I have only 5 slots remaining because I take in only 10 people. Please contact me. Let us talk. Let's get in the business space and let us see how we are going to cushion ourselves from these Philistines that come to stop our wells. Until next time, I want you to enjoy Uganda's 61st year, and I pray that by this time next year, your business will be off to a great time. God bless you.